Hello. You were late on that.
You were like right on the one. I was like, one.
You were late. You doing what you're having for dinner? Omelette.
We are live. Stop talking about your dinner.
I know, but honest to God, I wish you'd do something more exciting.
What's she got?
Peas omelette.
Meg's going to Vegas and all she's eating is chicken and peas or omelettes, man. She's skinny as
Chicken
anyway.
and peas omelette.
Yeah, and every day I'm like, what have you got? I'm eating a dairy
That
milk.
sounds like the most disgusting thing ever. A chicken and peas omelette.
No, it's either chicken and peas or an omelette.
Oh, I thought you were a chicken and peas omelette.
Chicken or
Also, chicken and peas.
Mm.
Meg, how old are you? That's
She's
that's like a kid's meal.
Yeah, because she's trying to be good for Vegas. But anyway,
Chicken
hi,
and
you all
peas.
right?
Yes, I'm okay. Sorry, we're like whatever a minute in, and you've just now told everyone about Meg's food and
yeah, but she's just I can't. I love having like what have you got? I never have anything. I only ever bring in what I've had the night before, or I'm sat with like a cup of tea.
Do you get lunch? Do you like buy it and bring it in?
No,
You just don't eat.
I'll just like I either binge eat. That's my problem. I either binge eat, as in like.
No, you do. You show me like packets and packets of chocolates. I remember.
But then I'm like chained to the desk. That's why the
like
board's been good because I'm actually.
It'll be this time last year actually, because it's Easter, around Easter time. I remember you doing a session where you were in bed. I remember talking to you. We were doing a call and you were in bed, and you literally were eating this bucket of like mini eggs.
Yeah, I love chocolate. Chocolate's my
like
favorite.
Mini, like this huge. You were like, I've eaten. I was like, oh my gosh, and you were like, yeah, and I've eaten one of those already yesterday. I was like, what?
We were saying in the office yesterday, like, I don't understand how anyone can get sick of chocolate. Like, I could have chocolate bar after chocolate, but
I can as well, yeah. In fact, I'm going to go and buy one, I think, after this, because I'm literally like, you can't
anyway. But yeah, what we're talking about this week, it's been...
What are we talking about this week?
It's been... Now for food.
Pregnancy cover.
Oh, yes, right.
I don't know what this is, so you're going to have to explain.
My biggest thing that I suppose as I've grown as an advisor, like at the beginning when I first started, I was just like, it blew my mind that people didn't know that you could protect your children, because I didn't know. And then it grew, like the more I knew about that, it was like certain conditions that can be diagnosed during pregnancy. So like the different providers offer different levels of protection and cover from certain stages. And then you go even further and then you start understanding deeper in like the actual, not the terms and conditions, but like the underwriting, shall we say, for like what's qualified as being able to claim during pregnancy. And there's a lot into it, like there's a lot of detail, and considering that like that's my main focus, I'm still learning all the time with it. So I know that there's a lot of advisors, and even to the point of even some BDMs where I'm like, I've mentioned it and they're like, oh, I'll have to check that actually, like let me come back to you, because it's not something that gets asked. So because it doesn't get asked by the advisors, how petrifying is it to think how many clients don't know? Right?
Yeah.
Not a clue. So I would like to try and encourage people to speak about pregnancy cover to their BDMs, to the providers, and get
more. So it's not a product then, it's just different things.
It's not a product. So like main one, for example, Royal London and Aviva will cover a pregnancy, right, from pregnancy. So say, for example, I've got a client who's 6 weeks pregnant, they get insured. As long as nothing's been pre-diagnosed currently, that baby's protected, right? Yeah. So if it's a 25 weeks pregnant, that baby they find out the baby's got spina bifida or clubfoot or whatever it might be, a condition that's on the list, then they'll get a payout. If you are with, I don't want to say the provider, because I don't.
No, it's okay. Don't worry.
Bad, but anyway, other
providers, yeah.
They won't cover that pregnancy. You have to have had the policy in force for at least 9 months before they'll protect that pregnancy.
Wow. So you have to have it so you can't get the cover while you're pregnant, which is when you're thinking
you can get the cover, but it won't protect that current pregnancy.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
I know, and there's a lot of providers that are like that. Some of them are a year, some of them are 9 months. Some of them just won't cover current pregnancy. So if you took out the policy when you were pregnant, they won't cover that pregnancy. And I found this out about a year ago. I think it was when my house started, like, and I was like, you know in your head there's a reason why you use certain providers, and I got questioned on it, and I was like, and they were like, no, we do that. And I was like, no, there's a reason why. And it's like, you have to literally, and I've said it to BDMs, yeah, but I asked to be, I'm not going to say the provider again, but I asked a provider the other month. I was like, yeah, Mint, that's great. Children's curriculum is brilliant. Does it cover the baby from get-go? And they're like, I'll have to check, because they don't get asked. Like, it's not something you get asked. And it's just, be aware from an advisory point of view, if you've got a client who's pregnant and is saying to you, I want to protect this baby, and you're talking about children's cover and making sure that the child's protected, make sure that you're putting them with the provider that's actually going to protect that child, the unborn child, because some of the providers won't. They will have a time limit on it of when it can happen.
I remember that with when I was an advisor, the Aviva one. I know we can say like Aviva and Royal London because they're good, so we're having to say them, but I remember that being like the upgraded, and it was like, why you wouldn't upgrade? Why would you not upgrade when it covered them straight away? I think
a few people say, like, I get asked this a couple of times, like I've asked recently actually a few times, like, so say if you cover the baby from 24 weeks pregnant, it's technically really the only thing that they would pay out for before the baby was born would be death cover, because until the baby's a born baby, born and survives, they wouldn't pay out. But what the main thing is that it's from the diagnosis being covered. So if you had Aviva Standard, right? Aviva Standard children's cover, that baby's not protected until 30 days old, right? So if that baby's born and they say spina bifida, Down syndrome, cystic fibrosis, there's loads of things on the list, but let's just say them, for example, you wouldn't receive a thing, because that's been diagnosed before 30 years old. If you've got upgraded cover, when that baby's born, you would get a payout. So yes, it's not like if they were diagnosed at 24 weeks pregnant, you're not going to receive the payout at 24 weeks pregnant, because the baby has to be born and survive. Otherwise, it's just going to get covered for death cover. But like AIG, for example, they cover club foot, cleft palate, cleft lip. Other providers don't. They're the only providers who do that. And it's like, unless you ask the question and you say, right, what are you specifically good for pregnancy? And that's what I do. Like when I speak to BDMs, I'm like, tell me what you're good for pregnancy. Tell me what you're good for children's cover. Because the rest of it, in terms of like the general cancer or the general IP, they're going about it. Everyone knows about it, really. Like they've got a good idea. The nitty gritty side of things. So like, say, for example, you wanted to focus on mental health. You ring your provider, you ring your BDM and say, right, mental health, tell me what you are specifically good for. Tell me what diagnosis you will pay out on, and then compare them. So if you get a client who, I know, has had mental health in the family, and they're, they say they're concerned about it, then you need to put them with the provider that's best for mental health. As in, this client is concerned about mental health. You want to put them with this provider because they're going to cover that. It's trying to understand the product on a higher level, like understanding the details of it, the finer details. That's the difference between being an advisor and a brilliant advisor, and there's no shame in, I don't know everything. If I don't know the answer to the question, I'll say to the client, I don't know, I'm going to check that actually. And I'll go back and check it, because if I don't know, I don't know. Like I get paid for knowing. I don't get paid for thinking. I get paid for knowing. So I need to find that out.
I think that's as well. There's a great point when you say that, which is like, and I think it kind of overarches on everything from that type of stuff I do as well, is people think, like you said, they're talking about the big things. So each provider is talking about cancer and this and that. And the thing that's actually making them valuable is the small bits. And it is so funny. That's what we say about like when I work with people, it's like, if you're like a mortgage advisor or an insurance advisor, if you're just saying, I can help you when you got cancer, like it's not enough. People, the real value is in those, the actual value itself is in those in the fine print. It really is. And they don't, and it's funny that the BDMs, and I do know that because I've experienced it myself, that they don't talk about, they come and talk about, well, cancer's 1 in 2, and because of this and you're like, yeah, but as you just said about the stuff about kids, that's the real motivators. The real motivators are those type of things. Or like you talk about like IP policies, and like, when can you claim on it? What do you cover? Are you a scaffolder and you need first day,
Yeah, IP people, for IP things, for example, like, do you cover anything for children? So if the child was ill would you cover the client? You know, things like that, like the finer details of the difference between which product's going to be best for your client, and that's your job to find out. And I think that's where having a niche is a really good idea, because let's be honest, the product's so big and there's so many options. To try and be the expert on every single subject would be very, very
Impossible.
hard.
Yeah, very hard.
So you need to decide which lane you want to stay in, but you be the expert in that lane, so you know the ins and outs of it. And like when I say, you know, when a BDM said to me, right, this is brilliant, like we have this, we have this, we have this, we have this, yeah, all great, sounds amazing, but when do you start covering the baby? Well, from pregnancy, right? Okay, so my client's now pregnant and she wants the baby covered. Yes, your cover is the best cover available on the market for a child, but when will you protect that child? Oh, well, we wouldn't cover that baby. Well, then it's shit then it's no use to me, because then you'd be better off with the provider that's not covering as many conditions, but it's going to protect that baby from now. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, 100%.
It's like that's where you become that's the part about you being worth your value, like that bit there, because then you're justifying, like, I'm not just saying I'm going to put them with them because they're the best. Well, are they the best? Because if that child's diagnosed now and she's pregnant, they're not getting paid a thing. That provider would have paid out. So what was right?
I think that's the, like, again, though, I always love doing these with you anyway, because it highlights to me a lot of the time, it's like why you're good, because it's that. I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass, but
No, I genuinely
think
care,
it is
like,
that. That's what I mean. Well, you care. So, like, what I mean is that, you know, I spend a lot of, you know, like we've worked together for a long time, and I get a lot of questions from people about you. You were like joking about it a few episodes before, like, oh, he's the guy in the corner. But there are people like, well, what is it about you that's so good? Because from a top level point of view, you just go, people, they can't see all the moving parts. And I think that's one of the reasons why doing this show is really good, is people to see, like, well, it's because there's a lot of things you do that other people just don't. And I think that's really important with this, is like, if you're somebody who, like, you've gone and found this stuff out, but you've had to do it on your own. And I think that's something that, if, like you say, people who listen to this, if you're watching this, listen to this, and you're niching in something, you need to go and find and push the BDM to find it out. I think that's why you've always done this, though. You've always been super focused on kids in the niche and knowing that. And so do you find now that a lot of your clients you deal with, that this comes up a lot now?
Yeah, like, I do get, like, predominantly the main clients I get, I've got kids and are concerned about the kids. And that doesn't mean I don't get any other types, because I do get a lot of, like, single people or contractors that come from all over. But my passion, as in what I'm absolutely, like, so focused on, is children's cover and making sure that parents know how to protect the kids, because it's so undereducated. Like you said there, 9 times out of 10, most advisors, I hope to God, know that critical illness covers cancer, heart attack, stroke, and MS. But you don't know that which provider covers birth deformities, or which provider will protect the baby from type 1 diabetes, like a child from type 1 diabetes, where another one won't. I do, because I ask. So, like, just make sure that whatever you're passionate about, you are the absolute expert in, and you will get much more from your client by showing that as well, and saying, right, I would have put you with these, but I'm not, because you're concerned about the baby, so I need to put you with this provider, and tell them. And then they're going to have more trust in you and know that you know what you're talking about, because you're giving them the reasons why, you're explaining to them, you're validating why they're using you. You know, why aren't you going online? Because you can get the advice I'm giving you, because I've earned that advice. Like, I've got the experience you haven't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love this whole topic. Is there any parting words on this? Because I could dive into this forever, but I'm very aware that we want to make sure that we wrap this one up and don't go on our normal rants. But is there any?
Just find out what you're passionate about, become the expert in it, and make sure you showcase all the unimportant stuff to the client, because the unimportant stuff is usually the very important things that really matter.
Absolutely, 100%. That's really, really great. See you next week.
Bye.
If I can end it.